You're listening to the Lima Baptist Temple podcast, where you can hear the latest messages and other conversations as we strive to go, serve, and love in our communities. If you want to know more about us, visit us online at limabaptisttemple.org. If you enjoyed our podcast, be sure to subscribe and check us out on YouTube.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Lima Baptist Temple podcast. My name is Ben Anderson, and I'm an associate pastor here at the church. And we have an awesome podcast for this week. I'm excited. I have a special guest with me. His name is Jeremy Staley. And for the last few weeks, to go along with Pastor Al's sermon series on the prodigal son called Coming Home, we've been taking some time to talk about families and what does a healthy family look like. This is something that Pastor Michael, who's typically sitting here next with me, we've been wrestling with this and talking about it and just striving to be better dads, better leaders, and create a really healthy family for ourselves. But we decided today that we need to bring on somebody who, maybe a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and, has a few more kids and all that. So we're going to be talking to Jeremy. But Jeremy, we're glad to have you.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here tonight.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great time just kind of talking about what a healthy family looks like, gleaning maybe at least a little bit of wisdom from you and Lori and
We'll see.
some things that you have done. But again, welcome. We absolutely love to hear from you guys. So if you guys ever have something you want us to talk about or just want to let us know something, one of the best ways to do that, head on over to limabaptisttemple.org, go to the Central Hub, click on Contact Us, and we would absolutely love to hear from you. Just make sure we know that you're talking about the Lima Baptist Temple podcast. Well, Jeremy, one of the things that we do every week before I kind of have you introduce yourself is, we spend just a little bit of time talking about Pastor Al's, message series. So on Sunday, Pastor Al wrapped up the series on the prodigal son. It was called Coming Home. And he talked about, the shoes of sonship. And it was just all about how we are sons and daughters of the King, not because of the works that we do or good things, but because of grace. And it was a powerful and it was awesome message. But as you think back on just the whole sermon series, was there anything that really resonated with you or that struck a chord?
I think Sunday, you've heard the story a lot. I mean, we've heard it growing up, and like I always have put myself, obviously, kind of into the older son position.
Yep.
And it's kind of a awakening every time you hear it.
Yep.
We grew up in a Christian family, so I've always been, I've done the right thing. And these people who don't, then you always feel, they get away with a lot like that, right? Not to say that I don't possibly be the younger son at times too,
Yep.
and mess up. And the big thing that really jumped out at me, and I've known it, I guess, but the sonship piece,
Yep.
That younger son, he's going to come back and be a servant. I mean, that was his idea. But, sonship is a position, it's not something that you have to earn. I mean, that
Correct.
he was a son.
Yep.
So just because he was willing to come back to be the servant, that nothing we can do takes us away from, being a son or a daughter. That jumped out at me differently for some reason.
Yeah.
Listening to this time is like, once, I become a child of God, I mean, it's not what I do, it's who I am. I mean, that's whose I am, basically. And I said that would probably be the biggest thing. And just, again, thinking about the father, obviously that's kind of what we're talking about a little bit tonight probably. Just realizing, I guess, go back to the older son. Because this is the thing I didn't realize before is how much he did get.
Yep.
Pastor Al really did a good job of saying, pointing it out, because I had never realized that. He had a double portion, more than likely.
Yeah.
He is there all the time, and he's been getting the blessings from the Father, the whole time. The younger son, might be away and doing his thing. The older son was getting those blessings.
Yep, and he had gotten, but
and like I said, often, I've put myself in that older son position, and realized, we're just as wrong as the younger son a lot of times. taking,
Hmm.
not realizing the blessings that we get the whole time that we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah, I loved how Pastor pointed that out too, because I had never quite looked at it from that perspective of, hey, that older son, he did get,
but don't we
Yeah.
often, I don't, why don't I get this?
Yeah.
Well, we do get this. We have all the blessings, and we tend to look past, the blessings we have in our lives, because once you have it, you don't realize what you're getting.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's just a great reminder on sonship, and there's literally nothing that we can do, or there's nothing that we can't do to where God's going to love us anymore or any less. So it's just a really good, really, really great reminder. But Jeremy, the primary reason you are here sitting at this table, and we're going to have a conversation on just families. What does it look like to have a healthy family? And I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we're just going to have a good time over the next few minutes. And, I'll be taking some notes here and kind of putting some nuggets in the back of my head to use as my kids get a little bit older. But Jeremy, why don't we kind of let people know just a little bit who you are, maybe what you do, your family, how many kids, that sort of thing. Let's kind of set the stage for those that are listening and those that are watching, just so they can kind of have a better and broader perspective as you respond to some of these questions. Besides, we know you're a son of God.
I'm a son.
We
of
answered
God.
that already.
That's right. Okay, so just so you understand the perspective that I'm coming from, I guess, in tonight.
Yeah.
All right. So those of you who don't know me or my story a little bit, I'm married to Lori. We met in college, and we've been married. We'll be 24 years this summer.
Wow.
We have 7 daughters.
Only 7?
Only 7 daughters. The oldest one will be 21 here soon. Currently, I have a 20-year-old, 2 19-year-olds, 2 18-year-olds, 14-year-old. Hopefully that's right. And a 6-year-old.
Lori will be texting you.
Yeah, I know. Yes, she will. And a 6-year-old. She's soon going to be 7. She thinks she's 14 or 15 already as well. So that's kind of who we are. So we had a lot of kids real quick, real close together, which will also impact, I guess, some of my experience and my perspectives. Yep. Obviously, being all girls, I don't have a lot of nuggets of wisdom for those that have boys.
Yep.
I have some comments for those who have boys right now.
Things that you'd wish they would instill.
Things that I wish they would have done or still will do. I still have young ones coming, so there's time to learn and teach them well now. We have the whole time my kids have been school age, we've homeschooled them.
Okay.
Lori's been very fortunate to been able to work from home and school them. And at this point, I've loved that. We kind of went on that from a step by step, year by year, if we were going to continue. And now that I have, 4 and 5 are going to graduate. They're both actually done, I think, with school at this point, pretty much. But they'll both graduate. So I only have 2 left actually in school. That's crazy to think at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think the question that everybody is thinking in their heads right now is, what's the secret to father all girls and that many?
Hobbies. Work.
Hobbies. Yeah.
I own a company or a partner in a company, so I do have a lot of work. Keep busy that way. But again, you have to be home.
Yep.
You have to learn to plug your ears. We have a lot of noise in my house, and people come and it's noisy. And
I'm sure it's a bit chaotic.
It's a bit chaotic, and there's never only been 7 kids. I've always had lots of friends, lots of other little girls around, so you can imagine, sleepovers always, whether they're there or not.
Yeah. Well, you kind of mentioned on a word that Michael and I have been talking a little bit about over the last few weeks, and that's, kind of the word busy. And one of the things that Pastor Michael and I have been wrestling with is, in American culture today, it appears that many families are just falling victim to the busyness and just kind of the go, go, go. And it's something that's, really hard to kind of stand firm to make that time to spend with our families. But what are some of the things that you and Lori do to make sure that your family is, spending time together.
The biggest thing I think we've done clear from the beginning was involve them in everything that we do. It's hard to keep from being busy.
Yep.
Lots of things we've been involved in ministry and organizations and everything else. So you can't really get away from it necessarily. Try and prioritize and structure it so you can have that time away. But everything we've done, we've tried to involve the kids in, allow them to help, to do, provide them opportunities to be with us. Now that they're a little older, it would be interesting to ask, I guess, to see if they like that or not.
Yeah.
Because
probably depends on the day.
Because we're always together. Now, like again, with them being homeschooled, we were together a lot. Especially Lori and the girls
early on.
But like I said, I involved them even into my business. I mean, I'd bring them in to help clean and do things at the office. But like I said, that's the biggest piece. I think you can't totally get away from the busyness, but at the same time, if you're always together and doing the things together, I think that helps to I could be busy without them, try to be busy with them, I guess would be my answer.
Yeah. And I think that's a good tip. I know, Sarah and I find ourselves in the same boat. We don't have near the number of children that you do, and ours tend to be younger, but, whether it's at the bakery or here at church, sometimes you're just hanging out, seeing what we do and, kind of along for the ride. So,
but you have to get that time apart then as well from other things, that alone time, I guess, with just the family at home, away from other activities.
Yep.
That's important.
So you have kids that are quite, pretty broad range right now. But at kind of the different stages, when your kids were younger to, when they were older, and you kind of ask, well, hey, we could get them up here and ask them, do they appreciate that? But did that look different at those different stages? Maybe especially when they were younger versus, middle school, high school.
Well, I've always been involved with everything we've done. We've drug them everywhere. We've not. Lori did really well right from the get-go with our first one. She just went everywhere with us. We didn't really change life much with number one. We went out with her friends, and she came along with us.
Yeah.
And then the other two came along pretty quick there too. And Lori did a wonderful job. She didn't stay at home, didn't lock up, and become just a stay-at-home mom. They went to the store.
Yeah.
And you could imagine, Lori with, especially with the second set of twins, she'd go and everybody, the three of them that could actually walk, they'd hang on to the cart.
Yeah.
Or one of the carts, because a lot of times she had two carts. And then she'd be pushing the new babies in the cart, and she'd be very stern. You don't let go of this cart.
Yeah.
So she took them all. So I mean, a lot of props go to her because she's done most of the heavy lifting through most of this. I'm just back there to help support her.
Yeah. Well, our wives, they help keep us, sane, and they do a lot for our families to keep us on track for sure.
I may have been her sanity because I come home and she's like, I need adult conversation, after.
Then you tell her about all the cool alarm systems you installed during the day.
Yeah, she'd tell you about, tell me about your day. She'd want me to tell her about my day because she needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah. Well, hey, I did not have that question in here, but how do you and Lori make time for each other? So Michael and I talked about a statistic, I believe it was last week on our podcast, where the average husband and wife talk to each other for about 4 minutes per day. Like that's the average. So obviously there's some that are better than that and, others that are worse. But what are some of the things that you do to...
I can imagine what Lori's thinking right now. She's like, oh, if he only had to listen to me 4 minutes a day. No, we talk a lot. Early on, I was going to talk later and maybe go back to it, but I really pushed hard to keep her and I, our relationship.
Yep.
Like I said, she's raised the kids pretty much, because I'm not there a lot. So my focus has been keeping her and I connected. I said one of these days, and it's coming sooner than we'll think, they'll be gone and, we'll be left just the two of us again. Yeah. So we've worked very hard. Early on, we stayed up late. I mean, she was not a night owl. I mean, I'm a night owl, 2 o'clock.
So you're just getting started tonight.
Oh yeah. Man, she gets upset because I'll start a project at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and she knows, he's not stopping until after midnight.
Yeah.
But we would put the kids to bed, and we would spend hours, whether that's sitting talking, sitting watching TV, eating supper, at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Just
That's
the two of
huge.
us. So, like you said, we're not your typical 4 minute per day.
Yeah.
Some days I could be excited about that.
Yeah.
But she needs that time talking.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think that's good for us younger families to hear, especially when it comes to our spouses. Make sure we're taking that time, even if it's night and we're tired, and whether it's playing games or watching a movie, just making sure you're hanging out together.
She enjoys her shoulders rubbed, and I enjoy my feet rubbed. So we have a nice setup. She sits in front of me, and I do that, and she does that, and it's beneficial.
Yep. I hear you. One of the things that I have noticed just about your family, and granted, I mostly see you, in the church setting and, maybe at a few trade shows here and there, but it seems like your family enjoys spending time together, at least most of the time. And we kind of touched base on this a little bit, but how are you building that just into the culture of your family? What are some of the things that you're doing? And I think this kind of ties into the question we just talked about, how, they're just with you a lot and you try to bring them along on the different activities, whether it's a work thing or something here at church, but what are some things you're intentionally doing to build that culture where, your kids are committed to each other and they just enjoy being together?
You threaten them.
Okay.
Make sure that you look good. No, we've spent a lot of time together. Yeah. They are not always as kind and loving to each other as what it may appear. Lori and I have stressed, the world's going to tear you down. All right, they're going to tear each of you down. You guys got to be each other's back. When you're outside the house, especially, you fight for your brother, your sister, your family. When you're in the house, that can be a different story sometimes. And they do mostly get along pretty well.
Yeah.
Different ones have different relationships, and that's changed over years.
Yeah.
One set of twins, were inseparable, and one set has bounced back and forth between that. And so it's kind of interesting, as like I said, as ages change, different girls kind of go toward one another.
Yep.
And I mean, it's helped build a strong, I think, family that way. And with a big family, sometimes you're afraid to be missing because everybody else is there, so you don't know what you're going to miss.
Yeah.
And you're going to be the one talking
FOMO,
about it, right?
Fear of missing out.
So you're going to be, the one missing out. So that has helped, I think, a little bit to create that. And I'm from a big family, so just it's more exciting when you have a lot of people and nobody wants to miss a party, and it's kind of been like that all the time.
Yeah, it's one big party.
It's just one big party.
No, that's really good, and I think that's great advice. This next question, I think you could say is probably the most important one we'll talk about tonight. But how have you and Lori, just taught your kids that their significance is rooted in Jesus, and not something else? And kind of how did that look at, the different ages? So, Pastor Michael and I were, we have young kids, ranging from, just under 2 or over 1, to 6, and it's young. And sometimes it just feels like, you're not really getting anywhere. But, what are some of the things that you did to, help in their relationship with Jesus and that their significance is there?
We've always stressed, being in the Word, obviously. I think all the girls, spend time reading their Bibles, doing devotions. We haven't done a ton as a family, as a group, but individually, they all have done that.
Yep.
Both before they got into school and then through school. That kind of helped keep them in the Word.
Yep.
Which obviously that, Jesus himself is going to help push that. We've stressed hard that anything you do, is not what you do or who you are. It's whose you are.
Yeah.
And everything you do, whether it's religious or not, you should be doing this, for Christ. Do your best. Don't slack off. Don't do it halfway. If you're going to do something, do it right. And I think looking through all the girls, I mean, that has really been a thing. Everything you're doing, you're an example to others about Christ. So it's not just representing, our family. It's more than that. It's representing, Jesus Christ and who we want to be, for Him, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think people see that too. I know, I've worked with a few of your kids on the First Impressions team and, at the bakery, and your kids they have a great work ethic. And they work hard, and it's cool to see your kids, still playing an active role in the ministry, at the church or outside of the church and just serving people. And I think it's a testament to, some of those things that you just talked about and, how you and Lori are trying to instill that, encourage, their personal relationship with Jesus. So that's really cool to see. And it's encouraging, for us parents, that, it's just the consistency of it. A lot of times, I don't know about you, but I like to find that magic silver bullet, right? If you do this, it's all going to, work out. But what I heard you saying was just a lot of the consistency and, spending time in the Word and, pointing them back to their personal walk with Jesus. And
another thing would be pushing them to do things. All their friends, I think, would tell, or they say to all their friends, all they do is ever work. I hear that a lot. We come home and it's time to clean. It's time to do this. Well, if you guys wouldn't make a mess, you wouldn't have to clean all the time. But like I said, they had responsibilities they had to accomplish. Obviously, with that many people in the house, there was always things to be done. Laundry never stops. Bathrooms need cleaned constantly. So, like I said, making sure that they all have those responsibilities is very important. I think to give them that work ethic, not to, don't get me wrong. I've got some that are more lazy than others. I've got some who are workers, and if we leave the house and I know who's home, I'll know how the house will be when we come home, whether it'll be clean or not so clean. And they know who they are. So I'm not looking forward to when those go away.
No, that's good. So I don't think I prepped you with this question, but, our mission here at this church is go serve and love. But that's also the mission of a follower of Jesus. We're called to go and live out the Great Commission and get out of our comfort zone, serve, people all well, loving people and growing in our love for God and love for others and, love for those outside of the church. But how would you say, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but maybe expound on it a little bit more, but how have you taught your kids to actively live out their faith actively, I guess is the question I'm trying to say.
I would go back to, obviously we're trying to lead by example. We've been involved ever since we were married. I mean, we got married in August, and I think we started, back in the junior high group, the end of August or beginning of September that year.
Yeah. Wow.
As just help back there. Kept the kids, even like I said, when they were born, they were part of our ministry, that we did. They've grown up doing that, and I think hopefully they've seen in us our desire to be servants and to do. They've seen the good and the bad, that side. I mean, obviously you try and hide a lot of the bad if you can, but they're gonna see some of that one way or the other. But seeing how we've fought through that and worked through things that have come and gone, challenges and whatnot, but then keep them involved and then give them opportunities. And being part of this church, I mean, like you said, I mean, you've worked with some of them in areas. They want to get involved. They want to do things. The old adage, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I've tried to teach them, just because you have to do work doesn't mean that it's bad. That can still be good. Do it with a good attitude. I mean, you have to do it one way or the other. You might as well have fun at it than, begrudgingly do it. And they've taken the opportunities. And like I said, the church has given a lot of opportunities for them to even, serve alongside us and then serve, even beyond us. Like I said, I think all of them that are old enough have served in other children's ministries as soon as they are teenage that they can do that. And then even some of the kids through some of their classes have opportunities, the teachers have given them to not necessarily, teach, but to be some sort of leadership in their own classes. And like I said, I'd like to take credit for all that. I mean, some of that is just, them.
I think the lead by example is huge. I even noticed this, with my kids. It's just how young they really start just emulating you in doing what you do.
That's scary.
And it is scary. They're like, oh, Dad just slammed the cabinet door, or Dad just, stomped out, whatever it is, just they pick up on those things, but making sure they're picking up the right things, and they see us, praying together as a family. They see us serving in the church. They see us, talking to our neighbors and loving on people. And I think that's huge. So the last question that I have for you, and then, if you have anything else you want to add, is if you and Lori could give one piece of advice to young families, young moms out there, young dads, but kind of young families as a whole, what would that be?
I think our biggest piece of advice would be, be united. Together. This, obviously there's some single parents who this would be more difficult for, but as a couple, you need to fight the battle together.
Yep.
And it is that.
Wow.
And it's a learning experience. Unfortunately, there's not a manual that comes home with them from the hospital fully that tells you exactly what to do. So you really have to, I think, make sure you work together as a team. And that doesn't mean you're always going to agree. I would try and keep those disagreements behind closed doors as much as possible, so that that the children see a united front. Like the kids, my kids know if they're asking for something, they know who to go to ask for it.
Yeah.
And it depends on what it is that they're asking. Sometimes they'll ask me, sometimes they'll ask her. They know who would be more likely to say yes. My youngest the other night wanted some ice cream. She didn't come to me because she knew I could say no. So like I said, but being united and trying to make sure that they see, our goal, I want them to see a loving couple. I want to have them have a good example of what a marriage, should be, what parents should be like. Like I said, right now I'm looking at potentially 4 weddings in the next year.
Wow.
And, each of them, as they were, meeting some of these gentlemen, I pointed out a lot of flaws. I said, listen, until you guys are married, I'm going to point out all the things that I see negative. I said, I want you to have critical thoughts toward this. Hopefully you've seen a good example in us and what you want in your future husband. And I'm going to, we've left them a lot of freedom. I think that would be another key that I would tell people. And multiples of my kids would say, and I don't know if this would be the case, but they said, and I've heard them say, they didn't force us to go to church. Which, had they not gone, that may have been but
you never
but I didn't have to force them. They wanted to go to church. They wanted to be involved. And it was it's interesting and cool to me that, that was the case, that they didn't really feel like we were forcing them to do things. We've left them, they may argue a little bit. I've left them a lot of freedom to make choices. Yep. We've been very careful not to, even when they've had choices we wouldn't necessarily like, we've fought very hard not to create that, no. There's times you have to say no.
Correct.
But there's times that you point it out, but they're going to have to learn on their own. And if I put too hard of no there, I feel that they would try and be rebellious and whatnot. And I don't want that. I don't want them to make a choice to be rebellious to me. I'd rather have them understand here's why I say no. Yep. You make this choice. And obviously you can only do this once they get old enough to make
Correct.
some of these
This isn't
decisions.
your 1-year-old.
This isn't my 1-year-old, right? And I've had some of the girls come back, who are older now, and say you were right.
You're like, yeah,
I tried that. So next time I tell you something, I may know what I'm talking about. I'm a little bit older than you, So, like I said, being unified together, and then being very, very open and honest. My kids. I've been open, I think, with them when in struggles, decisions, and I've told them past decisions, these were my choices. I had to figure out what to do. And I teach them, or my whole thought is, I'm going to go with what God's opened up for me.
Yep.
And I'm going to trust that what I'm doing is the right thing, and he's going to shut the door if it's not. So I can have confidence that I'm doing the right thing as long as I know I'm not going against his will, and he'll shut the door if it's not.
Yeah.
So have faith.
Yeah.
Easy.
Man, there's so many. We could probably talk another hour just diving into some of that. That was really good. Well, Jeremy, we probably need to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I really appreciate you just, sitting down, letting me kind of ask some questions and just kind of just broadening the conversation of what Pastor Michael and I have been talking about the last few weeks. Like I said, we're young parents. We're wrestling with, I feel like some of the simple stuff, and it's just kind of cool to hear some of the things that, you have done, and
you'll make it through.
We will make it through. It kind of seems a long way off, but as you can probably attest, it probably flies by.
It's fast.
Yep.
It does go fast. Like I said, I haven't figured it all out. I wish I had. Probably will never have. I threatened Lori to bring her tonight, and I said she'd be the one probably to tell you all this stuff. She wouldn't have it. But.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe we'll say that for another podcast. You can come join us around this table.
Challenge you out there, Lori.
We're coming for you. No, but thanks again for joining us. Just talking about, families and just kind of your tips and things that you've learned and discovered along the way. But we really appreciate it. And we hope you guys have enjoyed just listening in on this conversation with Jeremy Staley, a father of 7 girls, 4 are possibly getting married this year. And it's going to be a busy year for you.
It will.
It will, but it'll be good. But thanks again for tuning in to the Lima Baptist Temple podcast. As always, we want to hear from you. Head on over to our website, limabaptisttemple.org. You can fill out a form there and submit comments, stories, whatever you'd like.
Thanks for listening to the Lima Baptist Temple podcast. We hope you were encouraged today, and we would love to hear from you. If you have a prayer request, a topic you'd like us to discuss, or want to share what God is doing in your life, visit us online at limabaptisttemple.org.